Josh Lenartowicz here, king of the gym, and we're at Dohertys in Dandenong. It's like my second favourite home away from home. Brunswick's my first, Dandenong's my second. The gym here, as you can see, the equipment here it creates a really great atmosphere. There's some new equipment, there's some old sort of classical equipment that have great angles and movements, and right now today we're going to train chest. So I'm going to go through my chest workout, why I do it in that order and that sequence, and give you some teaching points to help you develop a bigger chest. Starting off with an incline bench press. When I'm doing this movement, you're going to have to find your own sweet spot where your grip is going to be. So because everyone has different biomechanics, their limb lengths are different, and you're wanting to get it to a point where your grip to a point where your arms on the way down aren't coming in, because then your triceps are going to trying to recruit it to push it back up. You want it to be complete, full, pec recruitment. So, and also if it's too wide, it's also going to put your shoulder joint under a lot of stress. So you want it to be in a comfortable position where your elbows are bending safely without your tendons being under stress too far. And you also don't want it in too close, because it's going to cause your triceps to be recruited and stress on the elbow, which you also don't want. You want it to make your biomechanics work for you. So like I said about the foundation needs to be set in order for you to be able to lift the most weight possible. And it's a slow game, bodybuilding. It's not like you can just pack on 40 kilograms of muscle within 6 months. It's like it's the kind of lifestyle that takes a lot of time. And if your foundation's wrong, instead of you developing the physique that you desire, you're going to be getting injuries along the way, and the more injuries you get, the more depressed you're going to be about training, because no one wants to be in pain all the time, but people want the result. So you just have to make sure that you're finding the good position of your hands. So when you see me grip this bar and come down with the weight, it's in a position that's keeping my elbows and directly under my wrists. But I'm focusing, as you can see, with pressing, I'm lifting my chest up at the same time. Whereas alternately, I can kind of just shrug and use my anterior delt and push my chest downwards. Whereas I'm lifting my chest up in the movement, and my elbows are directly under my wrists, supporting my wrist and supporting my shoulder joint, protecting my shoulder joint, I should say.
What you got in there, mate?
Oh man, delicious. Tuna. One of the most common questions I get asked is, how many sets do I need to do per exercise? And the answer is, it's going to vary individual to individual. I mean, you've just seen me do a 10 kilo on the bar, and then a 20 kilogram on the bar, and now it's going to be 30 kilograms on the bar. That for some people is their max. So they will do this weight and be struggling to get 8 reps out, and they may need a spot to get, a 9th rep or a 10th rep. So that's their maximum overload. They don't need to do a second overload in that same exercise, or a third overload. The negative of doing 2 or 3 overloads in the one exercise is it's going to diminish your strength for the second exercise and the third exercise and the fourth. And you want to be strong in all of those exercises, so you're getting great recruitment in exercise 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, as opposed to just great recruitment in exercise 1 and then having this crazy pump that ends up being restrictive in exercises. Like, a pump's a great thing to feel, but it's not really that functional when you're training, because it'll diminish the amount of weight you can lift, because there's too much blood in the area. That, as I was mentioning before, just like a skill, shooting a basketball, it's like trying to shoot a basketball with like one hand tied behind your back, or your hands glued together. That's how it is. Your chest becomes that pump, that the movement becomes unstable, as opposed to it being a movement that should be, structurally safe, and you should be able to increase the weight every single set safely, not dangerously, because you have to think, if you're coming down with the weight and all of a sudden you've got this pump that your shoulder gives, and then instead of it coming down straight, your shoulder gives, so you come down into that movement and press from that angle with the heavy weight, that hasn't been warmed up yet. You're only warm in this plane of movement. So the likelihood or chance of you getting an injury becomes much greater. I mean, it may not happen, you may not get injured, but you don't want to take chances. You want to make sure that you're coming into the gym, doing everything the right way as you can, hitting your targets, and then, you know, leaving the gym. I mean, you can leave the pump kind of exercises to the end of the workout, because that's when strength doesn't matter as much. And with me, I've always designed my chest workouts with the harder, more complex exercises first, like a press, a barbell press, or a dumbbell press, those exercises that require a lot of weight to be lifted. And the reason I start with them is because, one, I'm fresh, so I'm not exhausted. Because when you're exhausted or when you're breathing heavy, that's a limiting factor to you being able to lift heavy. So I always do the harder exercises first, and then I'll go on to like a fly or a pec fly or a cable crossover, which don't require as much neurological stress. Like, they still require neurological connection, but you have to think, if you're getting under a huge weight and you're already neurologically stressed and fatigued, then the movement can be unstable, and you don't want that. You want the movement to be completely strict the whole time. So we go next from the incline barbell press to a flat dumbbell press. So another movement that's more complex, as opposed to a pec fly where there's only one angle and one plane of movement. With the dumbbell press, it's a multi-joint movement, and if you're not doing it correctly, the risk factor's also higher. So the benefit to risk ratio on these ones is high with the risk factor, but the benefit is also very high. So to do them safely, the risk is much lower, but the benefit is still there. And that's why you see me, although I did a heavy weight over there, I'm backed down to 35 pounds for my first set of dumbbell presses, when I could probably do 100. But if I did 100, I'd feel more in my shoulder joint and my tricep than my pecs. So, and also the likelihood of being injured with starting heavier, like I mentioned before, is also greater. So sitting the dumbbells, best way I've found to do it is getting in and out of the movement is just as important as the movement itself. Because if you're getting it up in a bad way that's putting your body under stress, one, you're losing energy to perform an extra couple reps in the movement, but two, you're likely to get injured. So the foundation always has to be good. And I notice by kicking my legs up and getting into the movement, it's very safe for my shoulders. The two head surgeries last year, they put me on this medicine called dexamethasone. It's a corticosteroid that reduces inflammation in the brain so you don't have a seizure, and increases your healing rate, but increases cortisol, which, you know, cortisol is not a bad thing. Everyone thinks cortisol is bad and it's horrible, and, you know, at times you need cortisol to be high to help the body heal. And because my cortisol was extremely low, which is also great for bodybuilding in a lot of ways, they had me on that medicine, but I had a lot of side effects of that medicine. So I had like one of them was gout, one of them got asthma, coming off the medicine. Insomnia, it has like 630 drug interactions. So, it's a very severe medicine to take, but having like gout, I've never had that in my life, never had asthma. So these things that I've had to deal with in the process of this prep have been extremely challenging. But one thing I thought was ridiculous was I'd do my own research on these things and what causes them and how to prevent them or ease them. And one of them was like gout, and there was this GP talking about gout and saying that, women say it's just as painful as giving birth. That's specifically what they said. And it was painful, extremely painful, but after seeing my wife give birth, which was like 26, 28 hours, it was like gout was nothing compared to someone giving birth. So that was just like, no, it's not true. Should have done 130. Ego got me. All right, so the third movement we're doing is an incline machine press. Absolutely love this machine here that's at Dandenong. And we get a really good pec recruitment. And like I said at the start, the most important factor is your connectability to the muscle that you're working. And if you're not feeling it in the area that you're specifically trying to grow, and you're feeling it in your triceps or your front delts, then you'd either have to change your grip, change your seating position, retract your scapula, decrease your scapula as well, lowering your armpits in the movement. And if it doesn't work out, then go to a new exercise. Like the exercise I can't do, or I dislike doing, is upright rows, which a lot of people love doing. But for me, because of the bending of the wrist and the elbow joint and the shoulder joint, it just feels really unnatural, to the point that the foundation from how heavy I can go is hugely limited and restricted. Because the heavier I go, the more that my joints are bending in a particular angle that's not really safe, and that's when injuries can occur. So I just think, well, there's many other exercises that you can do in the gym that can help you grow that same area of the muscle. And it's like, as opposed to doing an exercise that's going to end up being injury prone by doing it, you're best to just move the exercise and do something that's the risk is low and the benefit is high. Like this machine, I've just done incline barbell and flat dumbbell, and I've fully fatigued myself on both of them. So I could possibly do another dumbbell movement or barbell movement, but I find that I'm kind of gassed out now, and to do a machine movements, which takes a lot of stabilizing muscles out, it's easy to just connect to my chest and overload my chest. So this one's called a cable crossover from the high pulley. With the cable crossover, I mean, it's still recruiting all of your pec muscle, but you can feel the dominant areas of your pec being your medial fibers and even the outside part of your chest, depending on where you're leaning towards as well. I mean, if you're leaning right over, you're gonna feel it coming into your pec minor, which so your pectoralis major is the bulk of your pecs. Your pec minor is running underneath as well. So anything kind of incline movement that you're doing is recruiting pec minor and pec major. Whereas these kind of movements aren't necessarily recruiting pec minor as much. Pec minor is still stabilizing, but your pec major is doing a lot of the movement with this cable crossover, just like a decline bench press would as well. A decline bench press isn't really taking into your pec minor, it's taking your pectoralis major into it. And the bad thing is though, if you mess up on a decline, there goes your head. I've actually seen someone who thought that they were racking the weight and they missed the rack and it just dropped onto their face, and it was horrible. It's a horrible look. Like anything, it's your connectability to the muscle. For me, I get a really good contraction in my pecs coming out here. Some people want it closer to their body. Some people want to lean over more. And this is where individualization works the best. Wherever you feel it the most, you just stick to that. As long as the foundation is good enough, you can keep increasing with weight over many, many months and years. Then you're going to get to a point where the overload is that great that the muscle cell is going to volumize and hypertrophy to a point that shows a great density of your chest muscle. That's just progressive overload, in a nutshell. Human beings, they kind of love habit and routine, but before you know it, people are doing the same exercises and the same weights, in January as they are in December, and they wonder why they haven't changed. And it's like, well, you're not stimulating your body, you're not getting out of your comfort zone. You need to get out of your comfort zone to grow. Like some people, sweating for them is a horrible feeling. They don't like getting out of their comfort zone and sweating. And I mean, I notice it here, like McDonald's is just up the road, and every Friday night or Saturday night or Sunday night, I'm here doing the stair mill, and because it's a weekend, there's hardly anyone in the cardio room, pretty much just me sometimes, but the McDonald's drive-through has a waiting line, and people's excuse is always like, I don't have time to exercise, and there's 168 hours in a week, right? And a lot of those people are watching TV for like, 10 or 20 of those hours. All it takes is 1 hour, 4 times a week or 3 times a week, and people being more diligent with their food, and then the results will come. Yeah, so then my form went from strict to a little bit loose. And that's when injuries occur, if they're too loose and you're under heavy load. And not only that, you're not recruiting through your pecs, you're recruiting through other muscles. So that's 5 exercises. My 6th exercise right now is just going to be push-ups and just a maximum amount of reps. Like I said, go for the pump. Yeah, they're a great one for a few reasons. I mean, pec fibers, you can do them anywhere, but also, doing a plank is very beneficial for your core stability, and doing a push-up, you're effectively doing a plank the whole time during the push-up, so it's a great thing to finish on. I do the tough guy push-ups on my knuckles. Oh. That'll do, donkey.